So like Stephen said, we're doing a potato bruschetta. This is one of my favorite recipes because it's really easy to make. I'm Italian. I love those like Italian flavors like the tomato and the basil and the garlic. It's really healthy and it's a good alternative for people who are gluten-free compared to like a regular bruschetta, which would be served on a crostini. This is going to be served on a potato. So the first thing you're going to do is get 2 russet potatoes. I've got my 2 right here. And we're going to slice them long ways into thin chip-like slices. So it's going to be very thin slices that are, you can see it look like that, very thin. So now that you've got these thin potato slices, you can see they're kind of like chips. We're going to put those onto a baking pan, which I have lined with parchment paper. So you're just going to lay them on there in one thin line. All the way down. All right. You would do this with 2, but for the purposes of the demonstration, I don't think I need to cut both of them for you guys. I think you kind of get the point. The recipe does not call for olive oil, but like I said before, I'm Italian. I put olive oil on just about everything. So if you want, you can drizzle a little bit of olive oil on the potato slices. If you don't really cook with oil or you don't really like to cook with oil, that's totally fine. You can leave them plain. I like to just do a little bit of a drizzle. There we go. And just brush it around a little bit. All right. I also just put a little bit of salt on them to give a little bit of flavor. I'm using sea salt, just sprinkle it on top. So once your potatoes are prepped, I should have told you this earlier, you're gonna preheat your oven to 450 degrees. So mine's already preheated and I'm just gonna stick them in there for about 20 to 25 minutes, depending on how well your oven cooks, until they're nice and golden. So while those are cooking, we're going to prep the bruschetta. For the bruschetta, you need some small cherry or grape tomatoes. So I have a big bin right here, and you're just going to cut them into little slices. This recipe calls for about 2 cups of tomatoes. I like to use these like multicolored ones because I think it gives a lot more of like eye appeal to the dish. But you can use just regular red ones or you can use all golden ones. There's a lot of farm stands that have really good cherry tomatoes around here. I know Balsam Farms and Amber Waves have tomatoes right now that are very tasty. So once you chop up your tomatoes, you're gonna measure them. I have some already cut. You need 2 cups. So there's 1, it's going in my bowl. Sorry guys, my dog is barking. once you have about 2 cups of tomatoes, you can pour them into your bowl, just like that. Next, you're going to grab another bowl. Got right here. And you're gonna prepare a little bit of a dressing. So it's 2 cloves of garlic. I've got some fresh garlic from one of my friend's gardens here. And you're gonna wanna peel it. So I always crush the garlic first when I peel it. There's something in garlic called allicin, which is the chemical that has all of the health benefiting properties that help you lower your blood pressure, lower your cholesterol. It's good for your heart. And when you crush it, you start to develop that allicin. So as you go ahead and mince your garlic, you're actually letting this allicin develop, and it gives it all those really good health properties. There's a trick to cutting garlic. If you feel like it's going all over your cutting board, you can take a little bit of salt and you sprinkle it over the garlic, and as you cut it, it develops like a stickier texture, which keeps it from flying all over the place. All right, so once your garlic's minced, just set it aside and let that allicin really develop. Next, you're going to take a lemon. You want to roll it out so that it's easy to juice. And you're going to slice it in half because we're only going to use half of it. So I have a little juicer right here. And what you're going to do, this lemon might be too big for it, but you're just going to juice half of your lemon into your bowl. All right. So that is all juiced. Now you need 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. So I've got my 1/4 teaspoon right here. Yep. See if I can get this open. There we go. You're gonna put your salt into your dressing. Now that the garlic's been sitting for a while, you can also add that in there. And you're just gonna mix it up. All right, so that's all whisked together. Now you're going to take 5 leaves of basil. So I've got my basil plant here, you can see it. And we're just gonna pick 5 larger leaves off. We've got our 5 leaves here, and we're just going to slice these thinly. So the trick when you're cutting herbs is to kind of bunch them all up together so that they're easier to cut, and you can just thinly slice. Those are sliced like that, and we're gonna add it to our tomatoes. Now we can pour in our dressing. just like that. I like to use a little rubber spatula to combine everything. So that's your bruschetta. Super simple. It's really easy to make. This recipe can be doubled or even tripled really easily, which is why I like it so much, because I can either make it for myself for a snack, or I can make it if I'm hosting some people for appetizers or lunch or something along those lines. So once the potatoes are cooked, and I already had some pre-cooked this morning, that way we wouldn't have to wait the full 30 minutes for you guys to watch my potatoes cook. So once they're cooked, they're gonna look like this. They're thin, this one's a little bit thinner, so it's a little bit more crunchy, but you can see they're not super floppy. They kind of hold their texture. They got a little bit of brown on them. Honestly, these ones, I could have browned a little bit more, but it's up to personal preference if you like them crispier or a little bit softer. And all you're gonna do is take a spoon, take some of your bruschetta, and top each potato with the bruschetta. It's very simple. It's a really good appetizer. There you go. So that's what it's gonna look like when you're done. You can take some of the sea salt and some black pepper. I like to put it in my hand first so I know how much is going on my dish. There we go. And you can just pinch it and sprinkle it on top. You don't need much. The garlic is a very strong flavor, but I will say tomatoes do well with a bit of salt. I think it really helps to bring out the flavor. So same thing with your salt, sprinkle it on top of each one. And there you have it. So that's your bruschetta, your potato bruschetta. It's super easy. It's one of the easiest recipes, and it's really, really delicious. And then to eat them, they hold up nice. You can fold them kind of like pizza and just take a bite, which I'm not gonna do because I will spare you guys watching me make a mess. Does anyone have any questions or anything for me? I know that was really quick. It's a really quick recipe, but that's why I love it, because it's so easy.
If anyone has any questions or anyone would like to unmute their microphone, you may do so, or if you'd like to just type it in the chat, I could read the message. It was an excellent recipe, and I like how they're so thin, they fit on the plate like that. I mean, you can put that out before serving, I guess, if someone's doing like a pasta meal, or even a meat dish, and they want to put something out on the table first for the guests to snack on. That's perfect. That's perfect. I'm actually going to give that a try when I go home.
It's a really great snack.
Because we usually, like, if I ever cut potatoes, I would always put them in olive oil in the frying pan on the top of the stove. But that's actually probably better to bake it in the oven, and might be less fattening in by doing it in the baking method. But
yeah.
Nevertheless, as you showed, that you can make it a browner according to preference.
Mm-hmm.
That's always an option.
Yeah, it depends. The more that you brown it, the crispier it's going to get. So it's more of whether you want it to be like a chip, or if you want it to be a little bit softer, like a piece of bread. So it's all up to your preference. But I do like this recipe for appetizers, because a lot of times people will pull out like tomato mozzarella basil, something like that. And this is like a vegan alternative to that. If you have a lot of people that are coming over that, you know, might have some dietary restrictions or lactose intolerant or something along those lines. This is just as easy and just as delicious to make.
Yeah, and you can probably, if someone wanted something quick to have cold and they took it out of their refrigerator, they probably could just have it as a cold appetizer also,
Yep,
as opposed to a hot appetizer.
Mm-hmm.
But that is excellent. And if, again, I will gladly send the recipe out to everyone who is on the Zoom if they'd like to have a copy of it. And Dana will be back next week at the same time with another summer recipe for all to enjoy. So yeah, well, looking forward to seeing everybody at 11 o'clock next Thursday. Okay, thank you, Dana. We'll see you. Oh, we have something coming through on the chat. Okay. Yep. I will email the recipe to everybody on the Zoom call, so you'll have it for your records. And thanks again. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks for watching.